Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. The current ruling Law and Justice Party organized yet another party convention, this time in the city of Warsaw. The leader of the party, Jarosław Kaczyński, gave a speech stressing the good results of his political movement in the pre-election opinion polls. The Law and Justice Party prepares for the upcoming European Parliament and Polish parliamentary elections, which are both taking place this year, the former in May and the later in autumn.
Idziemy dobrą drogą.
We're on the right path. We're on the right path to achieve our goal, which is to make Poland just. But when we're talking about a just Poland, we're not talking about numbers or statistics, but about something concrete. About facts, the ones in the past and the ones ahead of us. Ahead of us is the new five of the Law and Justice. It will add so much more to what we have already achieved. Let me stress that again, the right path I mentioned is the path for Poles, for the improvement of their standard of living.
Poprawy ich losu. To droga prawdziwej.
It's the path of a true, well-thought-through Europeanization. Today we did well in the opinion poll, but it's not the polls that make a victory. It's us who have to work for a victory, and we can do it. We need to remember that the changes we made improved things for everyone, because we don't pigeonhole polls because of their region or beliefs. We serve democracy. When I entered the building today, I heard people chanting Constitution. Yes, we are the party that obeys the Constitution. Now is the moment of truth, the time for determination and hard work. Then we can prevail. Thank you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we will win. Thank you again.
Dziękuję bardzo.
The European Coalition Convention, during which the party is scheduled to present their program, will take place on April 6th. Today, during the Civic Platform National Council meeting, the party leader, Grzegorz Schetyna, presented the list of electorates representing the party in the elections to the European Parliament. The party chairman made a harsh attack on the ruling Law and Justice Party, promising to settle the accounts with their opponents after winning the elections.
During today's conference of the Civic Platform National Council, a list of electorates representing the party in the elections to the European Parliament was presented. The opposition politicians decided to focus fire on attacks towards the ruling party and their campaign promises, rather than their own program proposals. I guarantee that nothing that has been given to the people will be taken away. The economy and salaries should soar, but during the current rule of the Law and Justice Party, only their friends got pay rises. We are proposing a program which consists of higher salaries, with lower taxes and social security contributions. We will also receive a huge backing from the EU. The mayor of Warsaw, Rafał Trzaskowski, argued that the upcoming elections are a choice between the populists from the ruling party and those who really believe in something. We now stand before a choice between the policy of the Law and Justice Party, policy based on lies, propaganda and manipulation, policy based on building fear amongst the citizens. On the other hand, there is our policy, based primarily on values we truly believe in: tolerance, openness, building community both in Poland and in Europe. 65 men and 65 women constitute the list of electorates proposed by the Civic Platform Party. The list includes famous names in Polish politics, such as Władysław Cimoszewicz, Ewa Kopacz, Andrzej Halicki and Joanna Mucha. Grzegorz Schetyna apologized that not everyone made the list or found themselves lower down the pecking order than expected. We had to restrict ourselves to 10 spots per election constituency, so we had to reject some very good candidates. We will improve upon that in the parliamentary elections. Everyone will get their spot. The event lacked a presentation of an actual campaign program, which will finally be revealed on April 6th.
If the Polish parliamentary elections were to take place in March, the current ruling Law and Justice Party would pull ahead, according to the survey conducted by the Estimator poster on the request of dorzycie.pl news website. The party would hope for a 42.6% of support, according to the surveyed number.
In comparison to the previous poll numbers, the Law and Justice Party gained 1.5 percentage points. The Civic Platform placed second with a score of 26.7%. The new left-wing party called Wiosna secured the last place on the podium with 6.4% of the votes. This outcome means that the party lost 2.8 percentage points with regards to the last poll. The Cookies 15 movement and Polish People's Party would also manage to get into the parliament. Finally, such an outcome would allow the Law and Justice Party to form a majority government on their own.
After violence incidents took place during the Yellow Vests demonstration a week ago, the police precinct in Paris issued a ban on organizing demonstrations today on the Champs-Élysées, the neighboring streets, and near the National Assembly. Nevertheless, demonstrations still took place again in Paris and other cities.
Around 300,000 people protested today for the 19th time in France as part of the Yellow Vest protest. There were some violent incidents, although not as many as before, mainly in Paris, but also in cities where demonstrations were banned, an example in Nice, where the protesters tried to gather at the city square and were dispersed by the police. After the protest began at 5 p.m, the French law enforcement arrested around 70 violent people in Paris and around 30 in Nice. There were also a few wounded. Even though the demonstrations are much more peaceful than a week before, there still were several acts of violence on the French streets, since more and more members of radical political movements take over the protests. There still seems to be no end to the biggest crisis in the history of the Fifth French Republic.
That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily. But stay tuned for the Poland Daily Weather Report, followed by the Poland Daily Business section.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tonight. In central and western Poland, sky will be cloudless. The temperature ranging from 6 to 9 degrees in Białystok and Bydgoszcz. Some fog is expected around Szczecin. In other regions, sky will be little overcast but without rainfall. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. Showers are expected on the south. In most regions we will see a lot of sun except Szczecin. The pressure will be higher. Temperature will range from 8 degrees on the north to 12 degrees in Zielona Góra. Let's check the weather for the next days. On Monday, pressure will drop. Showers are expected in most regions. On Tuesday, snowfall will occur in the south. Temperatures will fall to 4 degrees in the southeast and to 6 in the northwest. On Wednesday, snowfall will stay with us on the south. Temperatures will range from 4 to 8 degrees. Goodbye and see you soon.
Na program zapraszają polskie linie lotnicze LOT.
The Polish flag carrier LOT Polish Airlines is expected to be one of the main winners from the Polish government's decision to build a mega airport in the vicinity of Warsaw by 2027. Ultimately, the central communication port will have a capacity to serve 100 million passengers a year. LOT is hoping that the airline will serve many of the passengers traveling between the USA and Central Eastern Europe, using the new airport as a regional hub. For that to happen, introducing visa-free travels for Poles to the US will most likely be necessary. To improve the chances of that happening, LOT has launched an information campaign aimed towards decreasing the number of Polish rejected visa applications to the US to under 3% of all applications. Such a low number would make it possible for Poland to finally enter the visa waiver program, and as a result, Poles will be able to fly to the US without having to spend money, time, and stress on the visa application process. The carrier served almost 9 million passengers in 2018, a 100% increase since 2016. The airline has added 66 new routes since 2016, bringing up the total number of routes to 107. Possible travel destinations in the US from Poland include New York City, Newark, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Miami.
You're watching Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight our guest is Adrian Kubicki of Polish Airlines LOT. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And let's say a few words about the recent developments with Boeing 737 MAX. That's one of the newest airplanes in the fleets of the worldwide airlines, and there are big troubles with it. You've grounded the planes.
Yes, we had to ground the airplanes due to several reasons. One of the reasons were the passengers' comfort of knowing that LOT does everything what is needed to be done in order to do everything according to the safety procedures.
It is worth to mention that your decision was well before
was
the
prior
European
prior
Union.
to the official decision of the European Air Safety Agency. But this decision has followed our decision, so technically, legal-wise, even if we would like to take off with these airplanes, it's impossible right now. We're waiting for the final investigation to bring some results, so we know what actually happened in Ethiopia and how much and of how many and what kind of similarities we can talk in terms of these two accidents, one in Indonesia and the second one in Ethiopia. Until that, we know that Boeing, so manufacturer, is working on the solution to be implemented to the aircraft. It will be probably this, initially it will be software update, which will solve the problem that occurs sometimes on this type of aircraft. And then we will see when the agencies will approve this solution as a final solution and issue the airworthiness certificate for this aircraft. Luckily, we made a quite rapid decision on acquiring airplanes to replace grounded 737. We have 4 such aircraft. Sometimes we have 5th aircraft, which is supporting our network. Due to that, even though we have 5 aircraft grounded, our operations are pretty much as scheduled. Of course, we have some interruptions, which is pretty much our day-to-day business, but nothing more than this. However, it could be potentially bigger problem if producer and agencies will not find the final solution as soon as possible. We are really looking forward to that with one remark, that we have to be sure that this aircraft is safe and it's absolutely safe to fly this aircraft before we will bring passengers back on board.
You mentioned the network of Polish LOT Airlines, that's worldwide connection. So let us tell a few words about the additional to the network that you are planning for this year.
We have actually another year of great development of our airline for last year. And it was a 3rd year consecutive year of us being the fastest growing airline in Europe. So we will try to keep that tempo again this year. And in order to do that, soon, in 2 months, we will be launching new exciting connection from Warsaw to Miami, which is great for all leisure customers willing to spend some time on beautiful beaches of Florida, beautiful weather and nature as well. This will be followed by also very exciting connection to Beirut, Lebanon. This is another, it's seasonal in terms of interest of Polish tourists. We hope that this connection will be maintained also during the winter season, but it's definitely
Depends on the demand.
Depends on the demand, on the results, but for this season, upcoming summer season is a very exciting destination as well. We also have many business destinations, also new destinations to be opened from Budapest, including Bucharest and Brussels.
Because few people know that the Budapest is actually a second.
We develop Budapest as our
airport for LOT.
Yes, we definitely want to further develop Budapest as our second base after Warsaw. And we already have connections to New York, Chicago. Now we are building our European network, so-called feeding network. To create a proper hub, we have to have connections there. So we already have flights from London City to Budapest, then from Krakow to Budapest, obviously from Warsaw to Budapest, and soon we will going to open soon, in a week time actually from now, from Budapest to Bucharest and Brussels, and another destinations are obviously to come. And then the summer will pass probably very quickly. In September we will be launching flights from Warsaw, direct flights from Warsaw to New Delhi, India. And November, for those who are seeking some holidays, exotic holidays during the winter time, we will be launching flights from Warsaw to Colombo, Sri Lanka.
Oh, so the
Very
Asia
exotic.
is the,
Asia
like
is
the
still
main connection. Vietnam, Korea.
We are considering many of those. We are flying already to Korea, to Seoul. We're looking for another destinations in Asia. Asia is in fact probably the fastest growing market right now in the world. So we try to keep up both directions equal in terms of our development, and we grow both our flights to North America as well as our flights to Asia. As you can see, Miami, and then followed by New Delhi, which is the great example of that.
So this is very interesting. Let us say a few words about the local European market and this hub and spoke and building the feeding connection here. Your main area of concern is Central and Eastern Europe, or rather you're looking beyond that?
Well, absolutely. This is the region where we would like to be considered as sort of a national carrier for Central and Eastern Europe, so beyond Poland. That's why we choose Budapest to be our second base. And we are building our connections within the region. We are flying multiple times to most of the destinations here in the region. For example, we are the largest airline to fly from European Union to Ukraine. So we have pretty decent presence here in the region. Although we also see that LOT is frequently chosen by passengers from Western Europe flying, for instance, to Asia. Apparently Warsaw is on the way from Frankfurt, actually maybe not Frankfurt, but many secondary cities of Germany, for instance, Stuttgart or Nuremberg or Hamburg. People from all these destinations are frequently choosing LOT on flights to Singapore, to Tokyo, because Warsaw is on the way, and it can be considered because it's convenient.
Right, and it will be even more convenient once we will complete the central airport between Warsaw and Łódź, and once we will have free visa-free access to the United States.
So starting these two projects are, not everyone knows that these two projects are actually, they go together. Starting with this new airport idea, which is right now not just a concept, but something that is implemented. This is very important for us. Warsaw Airport is great, but it actually reached out to the limits of the capacity. Therefore, we need to think of the new airport so it can be ready within 10 years' time, so we can put all our operations there and create like a proper hub without these limitations. And also, what will be benefits for all people living in Warsaw, inhabitants of Warsaw, that we will remove airport from the city area, which will reduce traffic, reduce noise, and living in Warsaw will be more convenient. Airport will be maybe a little bit farther than current airport, but definitely well connected. Up to 30 minutes by train.
How long you're commuting to the place, not necessarily geographical distance.
That's the first thing, but also you have to see that you'll have more options to travel non-stop from this airport, wherever you name it, to the world, which means that this will shorten the entire trip time.
Right. So there will be more reasons to choose LOT Airlines right now, this summer, and very soon in the world. Sir, thank you very much. Emilian Kamiński of Polish LOT Airlines was our guest, and that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Na program zaprosiły polskie linie lotnicze LOT.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. Shower expected on the south. In most regions we will see a lot of sun except Szczecin. The pressure will be higher. Temperatures will range from 8 degrees on the north to 12 degrees in Zielona Góra. Let's take a look at tomorrow's forecast for Europe. We accept the lowest temperature in the northeast of Europe. There we will see 4 degrees in Moscow, 7 in Kiev and 6 in Helsinki. The hottest capital city in Europe is Lisbon with 24 degrees. A lot of sun will appear on the southwestern Europe. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
The history of the Kamienica theater dates back to the communist era. In 1988, the Broadway director Joseph Papp visited Warsaw. It was there that he met the future director of the Teatr Kamienica and asked him, "Why do not you set up your own theater? During communism? When communism is over, set up a theater." His suggestion has not taken up for many years, but Papp had sown the seed. Emilian Kamiński warmed to the decision in 2000 and began to search for the right place. Standing in the courtyard of the tenement at Aleja Solidarności 93, the future director already knew that it was the right place to create the Kamienica theater. The bustling walls of the pre-war building retained the memory of the splendor of old Warsaw, and subsequent stages of construction revealed more and more of its secrets. For 5 years he collected funds and materials necessary to complete the investment. The theater construction plan was being created on a regular basis and was constantly modified until all the smallest spaces were managed. The wife of the director, Justyna Sieńczyło, and Jolanta Pachowska worked on finishing the interior of the theater and refining the smallest details. On March 27, 2009, on International Theatre Day and on the centenary of the construction of the tenement house, the grand opening of the Kamienica Theatre was held. The names of the people who contributed to the project were placed on a commemorative plaque located in the courtyard.
How did you begin your journey into the world of acting, both in theater and movies?
It was odd, in the shower.
Overnight?
No. 3 friends from drama school conducted some ceremony in my high school. I was still 2 years away from graduating. Girls from my class said, "We have Emilian here. He plays the guitar and he sings Guantanamera pretty nicely." And so those 3 drama school students became interested in me and told me to come with them. Next to the classrooms, there were showers where they would change their clothes. I sang that song to them, recited a couple of poems, and they invited me to come to their school. The entire year gathered and it became an audition. I believe they were sophomores and they grilled me as much as they could. After the exam was over, they told me I was ready to come to their school, but they advised me not to be prepped.
Glowali mnie na wszystkie strony, potem po tym egzaminie powiedzieli, no, zdawaj do szkoły, tylko żeby nikt cię nie przygotowywał. Ty jesteś prawdziwek, Emilian.
They said, "This is the true Emilian we saw. You must stay this way." I took their advice. I prepared for the real exam by myself and I got accepted. Thus began 4 beautiful years of school, by far the best years of education I experienced. I worked like a horse. I met so many great people who stayed with me throughout my life.
Którzy zostali na całe życie ze mną.
You also played in the National Theatre for a period. You played in some great plays. How did that experience shape your life?
Ja nie mam pojęcia, jaki to ma wpływ. Nie umiem tego określić.
I have no idea how it shaped my life. I could not answer that question. I know that I began my career in the Wola Theatre under Tadeusz Łomnicki. That was an extension of drama school. Then I played in the National Theatre, later came Ateneum, then the National again. I played guest spots in Powszechny, Komedia, Buffo. I acted in so many theatres. I also did my own shows. I cannot, however, pinpoint what all of that gave me. It certainly kept me from ever forgetting the craft. I also met incredible people in these theatres, filmmakers, directors, actors, prop makers, people involved in production.
Jak przygotowywałem zastępstwa, to
I remember one time in Athenaeum when I was preparing substitutes. If the director was unavailable, then I would have electricians and light crews sit there and I would listen to their input. I was always friendly with the technical crew. I recall this story. We were preparing some play with Krzysztof Tyniec and we had this crew member, Jurek, watching us perform. He was a simple but very sensitive man. At one point we asked him what did he think of our performance. He sighed and said, "Guys, play however you like, but make it truthful." Such fitting words, the things you can hear from people. Make it truthful. The viewers want the truth.
Bo widz chce prawdy. Pamiętam jeszcze z Woli piękną rzecz od pana Wajdy, pamiętam. To warto to przytoczyć. To wielki człowiek, pan Wajda.
There is also a story I remember that involves the famous director Andrzej Wajda. He was a great man. He was directing a play in the Wola Theatre. Tadeusz Łomnicki and Lidia Korsakówna played the two main parts in a spectacular fashion, difficult drama roles. I played a cat in that show. My role was very small. I just sat there during rehearsals and I watched them at work. Back then, that was the basis of education. Nowadays, a young actor who should be sitting there and learn from his older colleagues prefers to read the latest gossip, but that's a whole nother story. Anyways, coming back to the story, Andrzej Wajda was directing when he turned back and said to me,
Odwraca się, ja jestem za nim oczywiście, odwraca się, mówi, panie Emilianie, co to za pan?
Emilian, who is that lady over there?
Ja mówię, panie Andrzeju, to jest nasza sprzątaczka.
I said, Mr. Wajda, that is our cleaning lady. To which Wajda replied,
A może pan ją do mnie poprosić?
She came to our rehearsals again. Could you ask her to walk over here? And so I brought her to Andrzej Wajda. She sat down very nervously. How do you like our show? He asked. I was just finishing up. I will go now. I know you are finishing up. How did you like our show? It was marvelous. No, you didn't like something. Absolutely not. Everything was perfect. No, please tell me what you would improve. Well, when Mrs. Lydia cleans in the scene, could she do it like so? That's genius, thank you. And he forwarded those tips to the actress. That's when I was the most shocked. I had to ask him, why would he do that? He said, that is the audience, a sensitive audience member. No one tells her to come here. She wants to be here on her own accord. That is the best viewer you can get. You have to listen to them. Something extraordinary, really. And this is the kind of thing that sticks in your head. There are many stories like that. They have been in my mind for ages now. Those stories stress the fact that you have to respect the craft. That is why I cannot say how the National Theatre influenced me, but I can say what particular people who I had the honor to meet along the way have taught me.
Ludzie, których miałem honor i szczęście na mojej drodze spotykać.
The former address of the building, built in 1910, was Leszno 13. Initially, it belonged to the rich Jewish leather trader Misha Roga. It was adjacent to the walls of the Warsaw Ghetto created in 1940. The former address of the building, built in 1910, was Leszno 13. Initially, it belonged to a rich Jewish leather trader Misha Roga. It was adjacent to the walls of the Warsaw Ghetto created in 1940. The building was damaged during World War II and partly, consequently, the fourth floor was rebuilt after 1945. Where the altar stage is now located, the remains of Aaron HaKodesh were found, along with an altar cabinet that used to store the Torah. During the construction of the basement of Warsaw, Emilian Kamiński discovered more than a century-old Villers-Bosch tiles. In the basement and what is now the restaurant were cellars which during the uprising helped transport Jews from the neighboring ghetto.
In 2007, you received a very special award from the President of Poland, is that right?
Tak, za działalność w opozycji, tak. No,
Yes, I received an accolade for activism in opposition to the communist regime. There are these awards, these crosses with difficult names, but it is true, I did receive a couple of them over the years, but it is not that relevant. Although I was very glad to be recognized and to have received the awards, it was most important to me that I had the honor and the possibility to play in the home theater.
Było to, że miałem honor i zaszczyt brać udział w Teatrze Domowym. To było ważne.
Could you tell us about it?
Powstał.
Yes, the home theatre was established during the times of martial law in Poland. My friends Ewa Dałkowska, Maciej Szary and Andrzej Piszczatowski invited me to work with them, and we set up an independent, free theatre. The security services were chasing us, but we managed to preserve our freedom during this horrible time.
Zniewoleniu całego narodu dawaliśmy ludziom wolność.
Through those humble plays, and I played in about 200 shows in the home theatre, we gave people the sense of freedom. That was also a crucial theatre in my career, as it largely influenced the way that this Kamienica theatre looks today.
Wpłynął na to, jak wygląda moja kamienica dzisiaj.
What was the reception of the home theatre within the society?
To było katarzis. To było katarzis.
It was a cathartic experience. It was the dead of winter, snow and tanks everywhere, and the society was overwhelmed by the bondage of the regime. Meanwhile, in the theatre, we said what we felt and thought. Naturally, we were constantly at risk of being incarcerated for what we were doing, but fortunately, we were careful enough, and that never happened. I was responsible for making sure the shows were not recorded. The conspiracy was rather similar to wartime occupation.
To tak jak w czasie okupacji.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we will be talking to our guest, Mr. Krzysztof Jabłonka, a Polish historian, about the role Poland played in the Second World War. The Poles fought with weapon in hand not only in Poland, but on multiple fronts all across Europe. With our guest, we will explore the contributions of Poland in the Second World War. During World War II, Poles are known for fighting on multiple fronts of the European continent, but little known is that they actually participated in some fights in North Africa too. I was hoping you could elaborate about the contributions in the African continent.
Pamiętajmy, że Włochy przystąpią do wojny dopiero w momencie ataku na Francję.
We need to remember that Italy joined the war only when France was attacked, so a year later. Then their colony in Africa, Libya, became the front line between Italy and Great Britain, which was occupying Egypt. At first, Italy did well, but soon after they lost, the British army surprised them with a landing in Tobruk. The Italians had no other choice but to quickly leave from all of western Libya, known as Cyrenaica. In the late 1940, more Allied troops were deployed near Gazala and Tobruk to defend this region. The reinforces consisted of Canadians, Indians with the famous Rajputan Regiment, and Poles under the leadership of General Kamiński, who, after having formed the Carpathian Brigade, managed to get to Palestine from Syria. From there, they were transported across the Suez Canal to Alexandria and then shipped to Tobruk. When General Rommel's army, the so-called Africa Corps, came to Italy's Germany's rescue, they nicknamed the Allies stationed there the Rats of Tobruk. Poles actually came to like that nickname. Last but not least, there was also a small but important Czechoslovakian unit, so you could say it was a typical multinational Allied division. The Poles turned out to be very creative, both in artillery combat and in creating diversions. This made Tobruk an impenetrable fortress. Its defenders held out long enough for the Allies' reinforcements to arrive and liberate them from the siege. The Polish Indian Army then chased the German-Italian forces and fought against them in the Battle of Gazala. Unfortunately, our brigade was pulled back and the newly formed Afrika Corps besieged the Allies once again. An African general was in charge of Tobruk's defense and quickly surrendered, according to the military code. Poles never listened to the regulations. They fought until the last drop of blood. Tobruk sadly fell, and someone rightly said, well, obviously, there were no Poles there. Poles were transferred to Alexandria, to Cairo. They were soon reinforced with 120,000 Polish soldiers from Russia, and not only soldiers, but also women and children, some of whom served at the army's rear. After the Germans were defeated in Africa, Poles were shipped from Alexandria to the Italian front, landing in Taranto. The second important point in history is the march of General Anders's army. Anders was a Polish general of Swedish origin, a great patriot. He was very lucky because after he was arrested by the Russians trying to cross the Hungarian border, he was sent to prison instead of the internment camp, from where almost no Poles returned. Only 8% managed to do so. In prison, he became very ill, close to dying. His legs swelled up to the point he couldn't walk, and he was sure that he was never going to make it out alive from the Soviet jail. He then made a vow that he would convert to Catholicism from Protestantism if he would manage to survive. Suddenly, Soviet Russia was attacked by Hitler's Germany, and the agreement between Prime Minister Sikorski and Ambassador Maysky was signed. It was sort of a short-term peace treaty between occupied Poland and the occupying Russia, which allowed the formation of a separate Polish army. This army was truly a blessing for all Polish soldiers who were sent to Russia. It was created east of Volga River. Anders knew that there was no way to make a deal with Stalin, hence he decided that the Polish army had to be sent somewhere outside the USSR. Poles were then transferred to Uzbekistan, where a big camp for them was built. Unfortunately, there were also many plagues there. Huge Polish cemeteries rose at the army's trail. People were often too weak for such a harsh journey. Many died along the way. When the Russians released them from the POW camps, they gave them nothing for their march. They didn't even have any money. They had to rely solely on the good or bad will of strangers, although they were usually treated well, especially by the Kazakhs and Uzbeks. If they were lucky, they survived. Otherwise, they died from hunger and cold. This army, counting almost 120,000 soldiers and many Polish children, traveled to India, from where they were transported on huge tanker ships to the Pahlavi harbor in Iran. There, Poles kissing the Persian land out of happiness were saved from the Soviet oppression. It was even compared to the Israeli exodus from Egypt.
Ratowali się z sowieckiej niewoli. Przyrównywano to do wyjścia Izraela z Egiptu w czasach Mojżesza.
So you were talking about the Anders army who managed to leave Russia, but I was wondering how they got all the way into Europe and how they end up operating there.
Trzeba powiedzieć, że cały zespół armii.
From the very beginning, the Anders's army was divided into two groups, those who could fight, grown-up men as soldiers, and women serving at the rear, and the youth around the age of 15 or 16, the so-called junacy, who in 2 years' time could join the army. Around 5,000 Polish children were sent to the east of Iran, near Bombay, where a local Maharaja welcomed them. These kids were later called Indians. The Polish army, however, was placed with the Armenian communities in the central part of Iran, in Persia, and then moved to Kurdistan. Why there? Because there was a lot of oil there, and the German intelligence tried to control the area. In Iraq, there was even an uprising caused by the Axis to convince the Iraqi Arabs to go to the German side. Luckily, it was unsuccessful, but it was very likely that they would try again. But more importantly, the attacks from northern Africa and southern Russia were to meet in Kurdistan, and that's where the Poles were sent to. For almost half a year, they defended the foundation of every war, which is oil, against German sabotage. It was there where the army was trained and healed from typhus. Well-rested Poles were then transferred to Palestine, where around 7,500 of them, who had Jewish origin, left the army and joined local resistance. The British were not happy about that and even thought of interning those who left, charging them with desertion, but Poles were very clear about this. They said, "We are fighting for our freedom, they are fighting for theirs. We understand that." The British listened to the Poles' word of honor and left the Jews alone. So the Polish Jews were actually the co-founders of the State of Israel. From Palestine, the Andes' army went to Port Said and Port Ismail. When Poles were crossing the Elbis mountain in Iran, they bought a bear cub which was orphaned by the hunters on the same day. The cub became the mascot of the Polish troops. It even learned how to open beers with its teeth. It quickly became a great companion of the Polish soldiers and was loved by them. It was really friendly and harmless, but it looked menacing. It was transported in a jeep with the division's safe, so if anyone would want to try and steal from it, no dog would have guarded it better than our bear, Wojtek. He got a Polish name, the rank of corporal, and even special food rations. He was an actual soldier of the Polish army. His story is truly beautiful. He even took part in parades, as he knew how to stand up on 2 feet in the appropriate time and salute with his paw. It really shocked the British that a bear listened to Poles. He even travelled with them to Italy, where he fought alongside them at Monte Cassino. He became famous for an extraordinary act there. As he saw the Polish soldiers carrying boxes of ammunition for the artillery, he picked one up and carried it to the cannons and mortars. Since then, Poles from his division wore a patch showing a bear carrying an artillery round, helping his commanding officers. He made it to the end of the war. He was adored by everyone. Poles loved to play with him. Then, with the rest of the Polish troops, he was evacuated to Scotland, where the army was disbanded. His fellow soldiers feared that their favorite bear might be put down, but unfortunately he was taken by the zoological garden in Edinburgh. Almost every day he was visited by the children of Polish immigrants from all over Scotland. He got his own enclosure, and Poles put up a sign saying that the bear's name was Wojtek. Unfortunately, the English couldn't read it, but when Polish kids shouted Wojtek, he immediately reacted and, of course, waited for snacks. He lived for more than 10 years after that, passed away in 1965, and was supposedly stuffed and put on display so anyone can visit him.
Zmarł w 1965 roku i został upamiętniony. Podobno go tam nawet wypchano i można Wojtka już w stanie trwałym odwiedzać.
So you were mentioning that Wojtek the bear was carrying ammunition and artillery rounds in the Battle of Monte Cassino, and I was wondering if you can elaborate a little bit about that.
No, bitwa o Monte Cassino była kluczową bitwą II wojny światowej, tak jak
The Battle of Monte Cassino was one of the most important battles of the Second World War, like the Normandy invasion in the West. The Germans did a very good job at preparing the southern front. Capturing one outpost wasn't enough, since other outposts were located in such a way that they could easily fire upon the lost one. The Germans defending the Monte Cassino stronghold proved too much for the armies of Great Britain, USA, New Zealand, which suffered great losses, Canada, and even the Indian Rajputan army, consisting of brave Sikhs. Then it was the Poles' turn. Marshal Alexander, the Allies' commander in Italy, said that these outposts can only be captured by such an army which desires the most to get to the other side of the front line. It couldn't be achieved with a motherland in the rear. The Poles were to commence their attack on the night of May 11th, 1944. The attack wasn't entirely successful in the beginning, but the Polish soldiers managed to cut deep into German positions and not retreat. It caused the enemy to concentrate fire on our troops and leave their flanks less guarded. French General Juin used that to his advantage and sent his tanks on the rear of the stronghold. Poles managed to hold their positions for 5 days straight and then capture the Monte Cassino outpost on May 16th with a second strike. It was a great achievement, later called the opening of the gate to Europe, and the Polish soldiers the hobbits of World War II, since they broke into the enemy lines and captured one of the most important German defense points, the heart of Christian Europe. At the top of Monte Cassino was one of the oldest monasteries, built in the year 530 by Saint Benedict. Poles captured it, paying a relatively small price of 990 soldiers killed, and were the 12th army which tried to do it. A week later, we had to face another challenge in the Battle of Piedmont, where again our troops shined with creativity. Polish tanks became very famous for managing to climb very steep mountains and destroying crucial German defensive positions. By taking Piedmont, we managed to finish the work, break the German lines and liberate Rome.
Przełamując linię i oswobadzając Rzym.
Poland was engaged in battle ever since the outbreak of the Second World War, lasting all the way until the last members of the anti-communist resistance movement was hunted down and executed in the early 60s. However, their contributions to the war effort will leave an everlasting impact on history. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where we're continuing down the royal route, starting with the famous Nowy Świat, that's New World Street in beautiful downtown Warsaw. Apart from lots of elegant shops and restaurants, there's a lot of history on Nowy Świat Street. We'll encounter the spirits of Frédéric Chopin, Joseph Conrad, and none other than General de Gaulle. And we'll also digest the mysteries of the Polish pączki. That's right, the Polish donut. This is Fat Thursday. That's a holiday in Poland, once again. And we'll be seeing how many donuts we can eat on Fat Thursday, as they call it in Poland. That's the last Thursday before Lent. That's the time when we give up various things for a period of 40 days. And one of those things I'm going to give up after this, as you will see, is pączkis. The fun continues as we go in search of the mysterious Polish palm tree. All this and more as we explore beautiful downtown Warsaw, the royal route on Nowy Świat Street. You won't want to miss this. Lots of fun in store. Poland Daily Travel, the best travel stuff about Poland you've ever seen. So stay with us. We're glad you're along for the ride. Hello everybody and welcome back to another exciting edition of Poland Daily Travel. We are here between two worlds, I suppose you could say. That is, I'm here with my friend Artur Górniewski, my sidekick and probably the best guide in the world if you want to know about Warsaw. At any rate, we're between two worlds. Between the world of Krakowskie Śródmieście and the royal route, and the continuation of the royal route in Nowy Świat, which actually means New World. So we are going into a whole new area. Nowy Świat, you'll see, a shopping street, a city with many restaurants and different kinds of, selling different kind of goods and coffee shops and a lot of historical markers. Nowy Świat, it's always been the main shopping street in the old days in Warsaw. Now, Artur, just before we do that walk, and this is a famous day. This is, let that dump truck go by. This is a famous day. It's Pączki Day. That's right, it's Fat Thursday, right?
Yes.
So it's Fat Thursday.
Yes.
Was it Twisty
Tłusty
Czwartek?
czwartek, so we are going
Not
to...
twisty.
but we can.
Twisty Czwartek. Okay. Anyway, this is a day when you eat as many pączkis as possible. So we're going to get some pączkis later. We're going to eat some, we're going to throw them and like snowballs and see if we can hit people in the mouth, hopefully, so they can eat them. They're very tasty. Perhaps the best donuts in the world, but we'll come to that. At any rate, right now we have behind us this building you may see. It's right here. It looks like something out of New York in the 1920s or the Edwardian age. Before that, pre-World War I. it's the first skyscraper in Warsaw, correct?
That's the first skyscraper in Warsaw, and it was second highest building in entire Europe when it was constructed.
Okay.
The construction started in 1931, finished in 1933, and Stefan Bryła constructed it. He designed it, and the Prudential, we called it Prudential because British insurance company was placed in here. And these are the days of Warsaw. In between World War I and World War II, we are constructing second highest building in Europe. And Stefan Bryła, imagine you are an architect and you designed second highest building in Europe, and you are arrested by Nazi German troops on 16th of November 1943. For 2 weeks you are examined and tortured, and then you are killed on 3rd of December. And this is an amazing history of this building that was supposed to be destroyed by Nazi troops. So they brought 2 big 2 tons artillery bullets. And right when we are standing at the moment, they wanted to hit the building, so to destroy it. And there are photos because they made a photo how they were destroying the building, but the first bullet missed. The second bullet hit, and there was a very big...
You mean the shell, big shell, yeah?
Very big one.
Yeah.
And the second one hit the building, and there is a very big splash of ashes and dust after it did so. But you know what? Not even one floor collapsed.
Wow.
Not
It's well
even.
built. That's your point.
That's my point.
Too well built for the Nazis even to knock it down. But this was the first. What was the tallest? It was built very much in the New York style, though. I think you'll agree, right?
This is the
like Lower Manhattan.
So this is the Art Deco style.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the very thick metal construction inside this building.
Yeah.
Over then we are calling this area Napoleon Square when it was constructed.
Okay.
Napoleon was a good guy for us.
He was a big hit in Poland.
Yeah, he was. Thanks to him, we got a little bit of independence from Russia, Prussia, and Austria stuff. So we talked about it, and we will. But they finished modernizing this building a year ago, and they opened Hotel Warszawa. Right now.
But it was called Hotel Warsaw a long time before.
Yes, but first there was a Prudential insurance company placed in the building. That's why we call this building Prudential.
Yeah, but under communism,
then it was then it was reconstructed in 1954.
Yeah.
But still, the quality of reconstruction wasn't good enough.
Right.
And this is right now when they provided proper reconstruction of the building.
They really did work on it for several years, didn't they?
No, just one company couldn't manage, so they were selling it to another company. Another company was giving up.
Yeah.
So they were selling it to another, and all my life I was just watching this building
trying to be redone. Yeah, trying to be redone. And now it's beautiful. If you go inside there, they have a wonderful restaurant and bar, the -1 level. The rooms are very nice, and it's a fantastic place, isn't it?
Yes, but let's hit the royal route. Let's hit some Pączki place.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let's walk and see what we find. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Poland Daily Travel, here we are walking of a beautiful Thursday morning on the street called Nowy Świat. What's so special about this street, Arthur? I mean, you know, everybody always, when I first came to Warsaw, said, holy goodness, you got to go over there and see the Nowy Świat. There used to be a famous cafe here, but it's not there anymore. You say, holy God, you have to see this Nowy Świat. It's the most amazing place in the world. Is it amazing, or?
Well, we love it.
Yes.
This is where locals are hanging out. It's Nowy Świat Street, so Nowy means new, and Świat means world. So the new world street.
Dziękuję. What does that mean?
Dziękuję means thank you.
Oh, okay. Dziękuję.
And
Nie ma za co.
We are welcome, prego.
Okay.
So we are walking just down, just south from the old town, and this is where such buildings, such palaces were constructed by our aristocracy or just rich people in early 1800s. Every single building in here was destroyed during World War II and then reconstructed, so that once again people are doing business in here. There are restaurants, coffee places. During the summer, every single weekend, the street that you can see in here is closed. No cars, no buses. Tables of local restaurants are just standing outside. We are just waiting for this summer season. At the moment, we are having still February, so that's why this street is open for the cars. But imagine people are just riding on bicycles in the middle of this road. They are just walking down this road and enjoying.
Look out!
Yeah, we are taking
It's a
care
scooter.
of ourselves. Yeah, there is a scooter. You can rent them in every place in Warsaw.
Yeah, we
so
have to do that later. We have to do that later.
That's just cool. And Nowy Świat Street, everyone wants to hang out in here. Everyone wants to spend time in here.
It's all, including the garbage man.
See, he takes care of our clean city. No garbage on the pavement.
Hey, those guys are important. Remember that.
Very clean.
Without those guys, we'd be in trouble.
Cars are not honking. Can you see these drivers are just waiting? They are relaxed. People gently spending time in here. That's just Poland, Warsaw. That's a place where you want to be. That's a place where you want to spend time. You know, no rush. I mean, if you are in rush, you can be in rush, but people are not around you. So this is what makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's a bustling street on a Thursday morning. I mean, not everybody's in the office. A lot of people are right here, walking down Nowy Świat. This is also an artery. People who catch a bus, and a lot of buses that go the length of the city come right down the street as well. And it's not open to regular traffic. As you see, here's another bus.